Hey guys, so I want to show you a really helpful tip, especially if you're a newer user to Revit, and that's keyboard shortcuts. And it's not really the keyboard shortcuts themselves, but it's the dialog box for editing those keyboard shortcuts. To get to that, you would go to the View tab, and then over to the right, you'll see the user interface button. If you click on that, you can go down to keyboard shortcuts. You could also press KS for the keyboard shortcut, and it'll open up that keyboard shortcut dialog box. Now, I'm going to click on that, and then you'll see this, and then see all the keyboard shortcuts that you have associated with this Revit. You can come in here and add shortcuts. You can add multiple shortcuts to, an item that already has those shortcuts. Like for example, we can search for walls. We can see WA, which is a typical one that people use, and we can add maybe WAL as one of them. Um, we can have WALL. We can even, change it up and just do TU, something totally different. If we press OK, we can go in here and do WA. Now, before, if you did WA, it actually would automatically jump to the wall one. It would start that command. And the way that Revit works, those two-letter commands will automatically start that command. Now, that only applies to an element that has, one set of keyboard shortcuts. In this instance, we have multiple. So if I type in WA, I can use my arrow keys on my keyboard and go up, and you can see down here at the bottom it changes. So I can do it again. I can press R. It clicked out of it. So what we're going to do is do WA again, and then down there we can do up, and you can see WALL. If we do it again, you can see WAL. So the two different shortcuts that we created for that for the wall command. Now T. We can see T shows up, and we have a whole bunch there. And I'm sure we can find wall, which is right there. So TU for wall. And if we type in TU, it'll actually start that command. So in a way, so I previously mentioned that if it has multiple commands to it, you can't really double, hit two keywords. That only applies to the words or to the commands that have the same letters. So if it starts with a W, then you have to kind of cycle through it. But if it has a new letter, then you can just do TU, or the two-letter commands, or the two letters for that keyboard shortcut, and it will start that command for you. So now we can draw a wall. Another cool thing about this, and why I think it's useful for new users, is if you go into keyboard shortcuts, and I'm just going to do KS because it's not working. If you go into keyboard shortcuts and for example, you're a new user, you can draw walls, but you do not know where that command is. You can do WALL for wall. You can find that wall here, and maybe you want to do the keyboard shortcut, but you're newer, you want to figure out where that actually sits. You can see right here, it's actually on the architectural build location. So it's on the architecture tab, the build panel. Now, and then for the structure, for the other location, it's structure tab and then the structure panel. So we'll just verify that. We'll go to architecture. Under build, we'll find the wall command. And then for structure, under the structure tab, under structure, the structure panel, we'll find the wall command. So it's really nice for those type of things. You can see over here, there's the grid. That's found in multiple locations. If we go back to the keyboard shortcuts, we can look up grid. We can find grid is on the architecture datum, and then structure and datum. And that goes for any command in Revit. You can find the location, the multiple locations where those keys live, and even if it's a family or like it's in the contextual tabs, you can find that out. So this is really useful when it comes to that. Like for example, we have the grids for sheets and stuff, so we can go to View, Sheet Composition, and then we find that grid button. So it's really nice for new users that can kind of find out where those different commands actually live within the ribbon. Another cool thing about this is you can actually dump this from project or from Revit version to Revit, or if you have a new machine, you can import it, or if you went in here, updated it, you don't have to manually update it every single time. You can just come down here and export that out. And real quick, what I'll do is show you that. So I have 2019 open. I can go up here to this home button, click on that, jump into the actual Revit interface, and then I'll go over to the View tab, and then User Interface, then go to Keyboard Shortcuts. I can export this list out, and what I'm going to do is actually dump this into this location right here. So I'm going to paste that in here. I'm just going to call it Test. I'm going to save it. And now I can close this, go back into Revit 2020, come back up to the View tab, User Interface, Keyboard Shortcuts, import that. And you may have saw that I had a whole bunch of keyboard shortcuts applied to the 2019 version. So now what I can do is bring them in here into the 2020. So I'm going to paste that link in there again. I'm going to click on this test XML. I'm going to open it. And now what's going to ask me is to merge with the existing shortcuts. So, it adds new and duplicates keyboard shortcuts, assign, to the existing shortcut settings, or we can come down here and override them. Now, it depends, it's probably not a big deal if there's been updates to Revit and, they've added a few keyboard shortcuts or whatnot. I think by default, if it's a new element, then that XML kind of ignores it. Like it's a new item on the ribbon, then it ignores it. So generally, I like to just override it because I have a lot of keyboard shortcuts. Actually, some of these I don't even use. I didn't create some of these, but I do have some that I've went in and edited that I do use quite a bit. And I like to override it just so I have all those. I don't have to tab through anything. They should work the same way, but it's really up to you. Test it out and kind of see what works for you, and if it, one way or the other does what you want or doesn't do what you want. But you can kind of use these, take them from Revit version to Revit version. If you move from one company to another, you can bring it with you. You can import it, 2019 to 2020 and, so on and in between. So, check it out, use it. I think this is a really useful tool. I know a lot of Revit users that don't actually know about this interface. I know some AutoCAD heavy users, always kind of complain about Revit and the keyboard shortcuts and stuff and how AutoCAD has all those. This is one way where you can kind of come in here and start to change a lot of those things. And I'm not saying that it's a good thing to use things or do processes that you did in AutoCAD, but updating keyboard shortcuts to help that transition, I don't think is very harmful. But check it out. Hopefully it helps somebody out there that didn't know it existed. I appreciate you watching. Thanks for the support. Let me know if you have any questions, and feel free to comment, share, like. See you in the next.